Many One Piece card game players ask the question, which starter deck should you buy? Well, I'm here to help you out. Hello everyone, my name is Asyrafchazz and welcome back to yet another One Piece card game video. And in this video, I want to kind of talk a little bit about the starter decks. It's been about a week since its release and I've been having fun playing with each and every one of the starter decks. Every single deck has its pros and cons and I'm here to tell you all about them. I have to preface this video is not explicitly telling you what starter deck to buy because I feel like all of them has its strengths and caveats, and also it definitely depends on the individual, but I'm going to list out every single pros and cons from the Straw Hat Crew starter deck, the Worst Generation, the 7 Warlords of the Sea, and especially the Animal Kingdom Pirates, and provide you with more detailed information about what you should be looking out for when you're intending to buy these decks. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving a like and subscribing if you can, if you want to keep up to date with more One Piece card game content. Because on the 22nd of July, we will be opening the booster box for the first set, Romance Dawn, on this channel. And then we're probably going to do a live in the future. So without further ado, let's talk about every single one of the starter decks and which one you should get. So I want to start things off first and foremost by saying that if there is a particular character that you really love, for example, Luffy, Crocodile, Sasuke, or even Kaido, then that's the deck that you should play. Yes, there are some decks that might be better than others, but you should always play what you love, that's first and foremost. But if you want a more detailed breakdown, here's what you should know. So for the Straw Hat Crew starter deck, it is without a doubt the most straightforward deck right out of the box. It's not very difficult to play. It's very linear in its kind of strategy. The ability to attach Rested Dawn using the Luffy Leader's ability is very straightforward. And there's a lot of cards in here that I feel like you could benefit from in the future as well. And also, the Straw Hat Crew starter deck has what I would call like the potential to have unexpected wins, especially with cards like the Rush Sanji and especially the 5-cost Rush Luffy. They are the cards that if you kind of draw them and then when you really need them, they will definitely come in handy and they can even win you games right off the bat. And it is also the most straightforward deck right off all of the choices that you have, and it's actually really fun. There are a few staples that I feel like would be very useful in the future in this deck, for example, like Gomu Gomu no Jet Pistol, the 5-cost Luffy, Rush Sanji, for example, and they can definitely add to what you need in the future. And also from the main set, from what we've seen so far, this deck has the most potential for the amount of upgrades that you can put in there. Because we have like all of these Straw Hat Crew cards, like Zoro, Sanji, and etc., all in the main set with different effects and abilities that can be included in this deck. And even cards like in 2 years to Sabaody to help you kind of smooth out your draws. It is one of the decks that once you have the pieces, once you have this deck and you get some cards from the main set, you can upgrade them immediately and have a great time just playing that way. Definitely be talking about upgrades in the future, so look out for that. So those are the pros of the decks, like, straightforward, very fun to play. The rush cards in this deck can give you a potential unexpected win out of nowhere and the highest potential upgrade in the future from what we've seen from the main set so far. But I do have to talk about the cons of the Straw Hat Crew starter deck, which is it runs out of gas very quickly. Now versus a lot of the other decks, it probably has a 50-50 shot. But against a kind of experienced player playing like Kaido or maybe even Crocodile, you'll definitely be on the back burner a little bit because it really does need a lot to kind of catch up to the power level of some of the other decks out there. And also, you tend to run out of cards extremely fast in this deck. There is no form of card draw in this deck, I don't believe. So you are kind of relying on your opponent to attack into your life to gain more cards in your hand, which sometimes doesn't work out because sometimes your opponent just knocks out your life in one turn and then you're just stuck like, okay, now what do I do? So you do have to bear in mind that out of all of the 4 starter decks, I do think that the Straw Hat Crew deck is the weakest. I'm so sorry to say that, but I just want to be very honest with everyone. I do have to say that honestly, the Straw Hat Crew starter deck might not be the strongest out of all of them because of its tendency to run out of gas. So you do have to consider that when you're picking this deck up. But it's still a very fun deck, and if you're looking to kind of upgrade it in the future, then this is a great deck to pick up right now. Next, let's talk about the Worst Generation starter deck. Now, I'm a huge fan of Green right now. After playing it for a little while, I feel like Green is in a very good mid-rangey kind of spot where you do tend to be okay with some of the other decks out there, especially versus Red. You're in a good spot. Green has a lot of powerful cards in the form of like X Drake, even like the 5-cost Basil Hawkins, Uruk, the 2-drop, the 2-cost Uruk, and it also has access to kind of like card searching, card draw, or like pseudo card draw in the form of Jewelry Bonnie, which is such a necessary thing that the decks really need, because it helps you smooth out your draws and get you the exact card that you need in the exact situation. If the Straw Hat crew had something like Jewelry Bonnie in the deck, then I think I would rate it a little bit higher. But as of now, because of Jewelry Bonnie alone, the green starter deck might be the deck that you kind of want to lean towards. But that being said, it all depends on your favorite characters as well. Also, the green leader Eustace kit is extremely powerful, especially once you're in the late game. Now, if you don't know his ability is you can pay 3, that means you rest 3 Dawn, and then you discard a card from your hand, you can make your leader active again, and then you can attack. So what happens is when your opponent is down to like that 1 or 2 life, it gets really dangerous for them if you have Eustace kit. Because what you can do is just put 7 Dawn onto Eustace kit, making it like 12,000 power, swing into your opponent, and then activate his ability to discard a card, pay 3, discard a card, make him active again, and then swing again for 12,000 power. So it's very powerful. And if you really like that kind of final blow, like that One Punch Man right in the face, Eustace kit might be the deck for you, because that ability is extremely powerful. But that being said, some of the cons that I found with the Eustace kit deck is it's very cluttered around the 4-cost and 5-cost. Now, I know that you will be getting 2 Dawn every turn, so it's easily mitigated. But you tend to kind of have a lot of cards in your hand that are just like, that will stay there for a while. So you really have to understand what cards you want to prioritize first when you're playing the Eustace kit deck. Do you want to rush out with the 4-cost X Drake and then have the future setup for future turns? Or do you want to be aggressive with Basil Hawkins to kind of knock out some of your opponent's blockers that are in the way? So these are the kind of things that you will get experience when you play more of the Eustace kit starter deck. But it's still a really fun deck to play, and I really been enjoying playing it. That being said, I do think that there are some potential upgrades in the form of the 5-cost Law in the future. I do think that this deck will have some upgrades in the future, though I don't think not as much as the Straw Hat Crew starter deck. But don't take my word for it. Once the full set list is released for the main set, we shall see. You have to consider that when you're intending to pick up this deck as well. Eustace kit also suffers from that 7-cost 7,000 blocker. It's a very strong card. But once you put it on the board, it does not affect anything except that the fact that you have a blocker now. And it's only powerful when you are able to attach 1 Dawn to it and attack with it and then have it unrest on the end of your turn. So you really have to consider that the green deck's top end might not be as powerful as some of the other top ends, especially with the blue and the purple deck. So bear that in mind as well. Alright, next let's talk about Crocodile. Now Crocodile is the 3rd starter deck, 7 Warlords of the Sea. And it's honestly sort of like the control tempo type of strategy. So if you are into that kind of tempo plays, constantly returning your opponent's characters back to the hand and just being annoying as hell, it is the deck for you, because blue is actually extremely fun, and you have access to a lot of powerful pieces in the deck, like number 1, Mihawk, great card. Also, Sentomaru is proving to be worth the wait, even though the deck only gives you like 2 of it in the deck. It's definitely a very strong card when you want to draw out the Pacifistas from your deck. Sentomaru is just a really great threat to have on the board, and just start to fill up your board in with more characters to kind of pressure into your opponent. It also has access to like Love Beam and a lot of event cards like Sables, and even the one Trustpad Cannon, where you can just return your opponent's 3-cost or lower character back to their hand. So it is very full of strong cards that you can potentially use even in the main set or when the main set drops. You also get access to Crocodile's ability, which is Dawn -4, return one of your opponent's character that costs 5 or less, and it's an extremely powerful ability because you can use it to get rid of your opponent's blockers. If there's something in your way and you're going in for the kill, you can return it back to the hand and just start swinging in. You can return some of the problematic threats, especially against the green deck. Bezo Hawkins is there. You can return like the X-Drake back to the opponent's hand, and even a Doflamingo, the 7 cost 7000 that lets you return one of your opponent's characters back to their hand that's 7 cost or lower, can get rid of the 7 cost Eustace Kid blocker in the deck. So it is a very good deck to use against green, that's for sure. But it does take a certain amount of skill to kind of use it, because once again, like, this deck takes a lot of plays to get used to kind of the tempo that you want to set for yourself and for your opponent. It does require a little bit more finesse when you're kind of fiddling with the deck, but once you get used to it, it definitely is really quite good. So it does have a slightly higher skill ceiling, but once you master this deck, it's going to be really fun. And I really think that Crocodile will have a lot of support in the future, especially with the Baroque Works cards that we've seen so far coming from the main set. I think it's really great. And last but not least is the Kaido starter deck, the starter deck number 4, which is the Animal Kingdom Pirates. And we've seen Kaido and how it plays. It's usually extremely control-y. You are literally trying to ramp yourself up to that very good high number of Dawn. Then you start dropping your bombs, and then you're controlling the board, and then you go for the kill with his Dawn -7 ability to destroy one of your opponent's life. The pros of Kaido is it has access to a lot of really good staples I would feel that could potentially carry you in the future. Number 1, definitely Onigashima is a really great ramp card. We have access to more ramp cards in the main set. But you always have the option to use Onigashima if Kaido is your leader. You also have access to very strong cards like the 6 cost King that lets you Dawn -1 destroy one of your opponent's characters that's cost 4 or lower, as well as the 9 cost Kaido that literally lets you destroy one of your opponent's strats and gain a rush to attack into your opponent on the same turn. So it has a lot of very powerful top end, and if you can kind of maintain the game to the late game, then almost assuredly it will be yours. However, the cons of the Kaido deck is the same reason why the threats are so powerful in the late game, is that you need to prioritize the ramp. So if you don't kind of find your Onigashima or your Jack to a certain extent, you kind of tend to fall behind, because a lot of your cards' abilities are like Dawn minus abilities, which will set you back even further. And if your opponent can kind of pressure you and start like chipping away at your life before you can get to that sweet 6, 7, 8, 9 Dawn, then you will find it very hard to come back, because your opponent will just keep pressuring and you really have to do something about it. That being said, a skilled Kaido player can kind of really try and control the board and, you know, take the hits but attack into your opponent's characters, and it's still, the more you play with it, the better you'll get at it. And if you really like Kaido as a character, because he is one of the coolest characters out there in the One Piece manga and as well as the anime, then definitely consider picking up the Kaido starter deck. So here's a compiled list of all the pros and cons of all the starter decks. I'm sorry if it's a little bit messy. At a glance, you can see the good and the bad of each starter deck, and also, you know, be more informed in picking which starter deck up in the future. I'm not gonna rank the starter decks out there, but I'll give a common consensus that people think that the blue and green starter decks are slightly stronger. I am in the favor of the blue starter deck myself, the Crocodile ones. But of course, each of the starter deck can get you wins. That's the best thing about this game, is that every starter deck has the potential to win. It all depends on the skill of the player and how you manage your Dawn effectively, and then you can definitely get there in the future. So I'm not gonna tell you which starter deck to buy. I'm not. Okay? Use this video, take all the information you need from this video, and definitely try and make an informed decision that way. But I will say that if you don't know which starter deck to buy, then choose your favorite character and just go with it. Once the main set comes out, because right now we are in the starter deck era, once the main set comes out, everything will change, because like people will not be limited to using these 4 leaders. We'll definitely use leaders from the main set, and it will be a lot more fun, I think. But that's it from me for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of semi-analysis video, just talking about the 4 different starter decks. I will make videos about how to upgrade each of the starter deck once the main set comes out, but I might do like a how to take 2 starter decks, kind of mash them together and see what the best list is. Well, if you guys enjoyed the video, please consider giving me a like and subscribing if you can, if you want to keep up to date with more One Piece card game content. Until the next time, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.